Hello, I'm back. How is everybody tonight? Grandma Sherry, Crimezilla.
How is everybody tonight?
Always forget something. Beholder, hello. Hey, Lake. Taffy's here. It's good to see you. And I think Pug came in earlier. But I wanted to say a special thank you to my members before we get started. I did change some things on it's submitted to YouTube on my memberships. They just like keep me awake. Because I feel I love the support. I just am not to a place where I can do a lot of stuff. Like, I don't have the time, to be honest. And my channel isn't quite big enough to, like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but like, I just always feel like this sense of like guilt because I think I'm honored that you would support me and want to be a member of my channel. I want to be upfront with like expectations, and the memberships levels I was not meeting the expectations at all. And so I changed them. And if you want to still support me at those 3 levels, I so greatly appreciate it. I really do. I am honored that you would want to support me, to be honest. And I do need it, just to keep doing this. And it does bring in, quite a bit of the channel like revenue. And that does go to our donations. I just do it as whatever AdSense pays me. That goes towards our donation that if we choose, like in a month, we choose a, whatever it is that we choose. Say we choose, like coming up is Miss Donna, Jamie Jo Tate's mother. She's missing and still is missing. And I covered her story a while back. So we will be making a donation to her from August, but it's going to be in September's. You know how it works. And I just haven't sent it yet. I need to. I've been meaning to, and I will. And I need to figure out how she wants me to send it. I did send money to Miss Jerry, Karina McClurkin's mother, and I know that anything is beneficial for these families. Just something to lighten the load, And so I want to take a minute to thank the members for all that they have been contributing to this channel and to the donations towards victims' families. And whatever we choose to do in the future as far as what we donate to. I do want to be a channel that does donate, and I respect Gray Hughes Investigates tremendously, and I want to follow his lead. I think what his channel has been able to do in raising almost $100,000, like, think about that, towards charities that involve real crime, and it's the victims of real crime. And I'm just blown away by that in such a short amount of time. Like, that is incredible. And a lot of this is, like making enough that you can pay all the things that you purchase for going live. And then enough to just like give you, I hate it, but at the same time, like, I have to make money. I'm not financially like, some trust fund kid. I work full time, or mostly full time. And I'm fortunate enough that I work for myself. So that's awesome. And this is kind of my side gig. And it is nice. It enables me to go live more often. and to give back. Like, that's at the end of the day, like, that's what I find the most satisfaction in, you know? So here we go. Let's thank the members. We've got Kimberly Jerome, superstar, and she's been a member for 13 days. So that's awesome. We've got Audra Baugh. I hope I'm saying that right, Audra, at the star membership for 2 whole months. So that's awesome. Reach into my soul and pull it. It won't hurt at the star membership for 28 days. Lighting the way home for the vanished at star for 28 days. Crimezilla coming in at the VIP for 3 months. Arrow Sarge at the star for 1 month. Lee at the star for 4 months. That's awesome. 4 months. Wow. Grandma Sherry, VIP. Grandma Sherry for 2 months. Beholder at VIP for 2 months. And she upgraded for two months ago. Bidding Queries at the star for 4 months. Monica Foster, star for 4 months. Westmeister, star for 3. At the VIP for 4 months. True Crime Maria, star for 4 months. Susie Heath, star for 4 months. And Hoosier Cold Cases, VIP for 4 months. So thank you all of the members. I really do appreciate you. And let me head back here for a minute. Hey, Daisy. Hey, Sharon. Hope you're well. No fear. Glad you're here. Oh boy, that rhymed. And I did like that awkward, like, dad laugh. Hey, Deb. I'm so glad you're here. I just want to thank you guys. If you haven't checked it out yet, I think I was like so, in the moment, that day that I was on your guys' live on It's a Criming Shame. If you guys haven't yet, you need to go and check out their whole channel as a whole. But I was on there for a episode about Anthony Greeno of True Crime Investigates. He recently popped back up, and looks like he's going to be at least facing some court hearings for stalking of the newest ex-girlfriend. Woo-hoo. Just saying. It's an answer to prayer. And she's awesome. And I do believe that she is going to be coming on a live with me and her mama geek. And I am looking forward to that. It's just that everything with getting stuff ready for the court hearings and just life, we weren't able to quite pull it off in that short amount of time, but we are working on it. And hopefully we have a live coming up pretty soon featuring Crime Geek and her mama. You guys are not going to want to miss it. I'll tell you what, those two women are forces to be reckoned with, and I am honored to know them. And, Mama Geek, she is something else. And I can't wait for you guys to be able to hear the journey for them and the part that I got to play in that. And and it's just going to be really cool. So, and then to my friend, I am hoping that the hurricane stays at bay for you. And I hope you have internet for tonight. And I hope that you do not drown. That would be really bad. So stay afloat and make sure you have what should you have? a beach ball. But that, you might want to do like a seat. So like a blow up, like a lounge chair, I would think, would do. Get one of those. Okay. Love you. Angel Bear, hey. How are you? Hey, Chris. Glad you're here. Yeah, Fake Crime Investigates. Oh, good. I'm glad. I thought maybe the show is doing really well, I noticed. So that was like, I was like, oh my gosh, like, with how many views that I got, I was kind of like, oh, what did I say? What did I do? Did I have anything in my teeth? But tonight is part 2 of where we left off, I believe, 12 days ago with fantasy versus reality, the science, research science article that I was, or not article, that I was reading. And it's actually a paper, but it's available online. So, yeah, I find it really interesting. And I also finished my review. I like to read things, just I needed to read it on my own, of the Kegan Kline interview, and I am hoping to be able to go over that tonight. I think there's some like really telling things, especially in lieu of looking at fantasy versus reality of someone, even if it, in the future, a future case of just that fantasy that drives murder. And as like we've learned so far with that, and fantasy can be, fantasy is basically anything of your, like, right now. Fantasy is that I'm in this, like, well, it's not even a fantasy because you see my white wall, but that I'm up in the mountains in this beautiful aurora borealis, and it's just glorious. I'm, just all I got to do is turn around and that's going to be my view. And it's just a beautiful night out to enjoy the stars. But the reality is that I'm actually in a closet in my daughter's room. It is not very big. And yeah, so that's like, so anything that is not based in reality, and it can be super simple, of like, I watch people compartmentalize all the time in my daily job and in my life. And when something is too, a lot of times it happens when fantasies start to be where we turn when things aren't necessarily going great in our lives. So say, like you get into a really bad car accident, and you're, I hate to use anything because then like what what if it really does happen? Like I get really OCD about like little like things like that, but like you are paralyzed, and now you're facing this, your reality is now that you are paralyzed and you have to live the rest of your life never walking again, and never going to the bathroom, just simple daily things that you took for granted half a second ago. And it can be too hard. So what people do was they will seek into their mind and they create a fantasy that maybe it is a virtual like game to where you are watching yourself walk around. And so a lot of those, for like a serial killer, what the article was talking about was the fact that bad childhoods, negative, impactful things that happen in childhood will determine what type the fantasy. And obviously there's all different kinds of facets to the human mind. And I believe that emotional intelligence plays a huge role, along with, our nature and nurture, which would be, nature is just your innate, your genome, your genetic code. your epigenetic profile, your genetic profile. Those are all things that you're just born with innately. You have your innate personality qualities that you're just born with. And then you have the things that the nurture, so your environment and the things that impact our environment when, especially in those formative years of childhood. And I'm talking birth, especially through, birth through those young years are crucial. Holding a baby will die without touch, and a baby will be negatively impacted for the rest of their lives if they are not held enough, and that just breaks my heart. They can have disassociate. I can't remember. Crimezilla, help me out. What the Jer, thank you so much. Says, I am really digging the channel. You have a great, genuine vibe and excellent content insight. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that a lot. Hey, Teresa, how are you? And so, hold on, let me gather my thoughts back. Must not have been too important. ADHD. I can't. If I rabbit trail, it's over. And then it's on to the next rabbit. It's really gone. Sorry about that. Oh, rad. Okay. Yeah, that is I'm trying to remember what the R stands for in rad. Yeah, it's gone. But okay. Well, that brings me back to just the different disorders that can be, like empathy is affected. Empathy, you can have narcissistic personality disorders, reactive anger. I don't know. I'm sorry, girl. You're gonna have to spell it out for me. I thought it was like reactive explosive disorder, but that wouldn't explain for the A. But reactive attachment disorder, yes, that's a big one. And intermittent, I don't know if that one's one of them or not. But you also have things that can medically transpire, or say an accident where the brain is a seizure disorders, the brain not getting enough oxygen at birth or at some point during those formative years or any years. Look at football players. Look what happens to them with the, all of those things can affect who we become. It still doesn't explain for serial murders versus someone that turns to, like something in social work, something in like Mother Teresa type jobs, savior type jobs in the same family. So you got one brother is a serial killer and one brother is saving the world and off making peace and love. They're both doing that for a non-altruistic gain. And I'm not saying that that's not altruistic, because it obviously is. And this is heinous because it obviously it is. But there is something that we are trying to fill ourselves up with if we don't learn how to deal with things properly in childhood. And so I feel like, in my opinion, it has a lot to do with emotional intelligence of like where you are innately, not what you gain as you grow, but innately, where do you fall on the emotional intelligence? And how are you able to use your intelligence? Do you, just IQ wise, do you have effective intelligence? Because that is super important, to be able to use what your brain can put out. So input, output. Because a lot of times with high IQs, the output is no one else can really understand it, and trying to express yourself is the most difficult thing about life. I don't know how else to say that. But, they can be learned behaviors, but at the end of the day, of how well you deal with things and not just shove in the back of your brain and turn a key and lock it away, because that's not actually dealing with anything. So we are going to, hey, Real Gone Gonzo, I would like to have you on my channel sometime, sir. I think that would be so fun. And Cold Truth Podcast at gmail.com if you are willing. So I think it would be really cool to talk to you. I've watched you for a long time and really look up to you, and I think you're a badass. So hopefully you would love that too. All right. I am going to get started on reading a little bit more of this, and then I want to go into that interview and show you what I find significant. I don't want to read it all. My dog is upset. I don't want to read it all, but I do want to go over some things that I have highlighted. So let me get it pulled up here. So why are we even talking about this? Let's do this first. Oh boy. Something is really offensive out there. And this is why we are even talking about this. So this is the Indiana State Police seeking information link, and it is in the description of this live. So they were seeking information on a murder suspect last seen on February 13th of 2017 in Delphi, Indiana. The victims are Abigail Williams and Liberty German. You can email tips to abbyandlibbytip at cacoshrf.com. The Delphi Police Department, the Carroll County Sheriff's, the Indiana State Police, and the FBI are asking for your assistance in identifying the suspect in the double homicide of two teenage girls, Abigail Joyce Abby Williams and Liberty Rose Lynn Libby German, 14, both from Delphi. Two just beautiful 13 and 14-year-old girls. On Monday, February 13th at approximately 1 p.m., the two young girls were let off near the Monon High Bridge, an abandoned rail bridge over Deer Creek, to walk around and hang out. They were to be picked up later in the afternoon, but did not show up there at the previously arranged time. Following an extensive search at approximately 12:15 p.m. on February 14, 2017, the bodies of two girls were found in the wooded area near the Delphi Historic Trail, approximately 1 mile upstream from the bridge. On Wednesday, February 15th, law enforcement officers distributed a photo of a person observed on the Delphi Historic Trail. The photograph appears to depict a white male wearing blue jeans, a blue coat or jacket, and a hoodie. During the course of the investigation, preliminary evidence has led investigators to believe the person in the distributed photo is a suspect in the investigation of the homicides of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. Additionally, investigators have released an an updated voice recording and video of the suspect not previously released that was extracted from Liberty's German cell phone. So, let's listen. Oh man, every time you watch it, it's just like I feel like I can just like almost see the person clearly, but you can't. Email is the preferred way to send tips to help solve this crime. Anyone with information about this case is encouraged to send tips to the email address abbyandlibbytip at cacoshrf.com. And it's also scrolling around along the bottom of my screen. If you must call, that number is 765-822-3535. And you can also email or call your local FBI office. So for around like where I live, it's Indianapolis. There is one. I'm not going to presume to answer that, but you can just type in FBI and where you live, and it will tell you the number and email of that place. So that is why we are talking about this Yahoo tonight. This guy, this gross. I hate that picture so much. Ooh. So this is Kegan Kline. Klein of Peru, Indiana, is currently behind bars and in Miami County, charged in August 2020 with 30 counts that included child exploitation, possession of child pornography, and obstruction of justice. A preliminary plea of not guilty to those charges was entered for Klein on August 21st of 2020. Klein has allegedly admitted to using the fake social media account to talk to girls in 2016 and 2017, even if they told him they were under the age of 16, according to a probable cause affidavit out of Miami County obtained by WTHR. He allegedly told authorities he would find the underage girls on Instagram and then move the conversation to Snapchat. Klein allegedly said he believes he received about 100 sexual pictures from about 15 underage girls. Investigators believe Klein used the handle Emily Ann 45. Wish reports. Klein has neither been charged nor been named a suspect in the murders of Abigail and Liberty. And he also used the handle Anthony_shots. And we all know the recent release, and then the earlier, what was it, a few days ago, it was, looking like Kokomo in the know, who usually, in the Karina McClure case and one other case that I do specifically remember, they were right on the money. So they kind of missed the mark on this one, which is unfortunate. They were not the ones that came out and said that they were, there was all these people that kind of jumped on the bandwagon. And some of those rumors were, like, oh, we've seen 30 cop cars at his house and and there's 30 cop cars. And then all of a sudden they're all in Delphi. And none of that seemed to pan out. And then we're not seeing any arrest. Now, would they be able to suppress something like that? Probably. For how long? I'm not sure. But it is only Tuesday, so, and every day, I hope that it is the day. Miss Becky shares, today is the day, every day, and how much we would all love for today to be the day, for those families. And I always go back to what Miss Anna said of it's just a piece. Finding the killer is just a piece of, what's missing. Her daughter that they will be able to find, and like he'll go to jail, and he'll be prosecuted, and death penalty, no matter what. Her daughter's still going to be dead, and Abby is the missing piece. And I feel like Abby gets overshadowed quite a lot, and I think that's probably a good thing. I think that Abby's family is given a lot more privacy, and Grace, because she isn't mentioned so much, and I find that very unfortunate for Libby. And the whole situation is just what no parent would ever want. And it's a horrible, horrible case. And I really do hope that one day, today is the day. I really do. Okay. So I kind of went over, just the what fantasy is and what it means to these, and the different things that goes into where, like, the making of these warped fantasy world. If we remember, early childhood violence perpetrated on the child, mostly by a parent, does lead to them perpetuating violence, to where that is now normalized. And then when their fantasy really starts to come to fruition, that normalized, underplayed aggression and anger turns into something much more. But in their mind, they can compartmentalize what they're doing. They can justify it with fulfilling that fantasy where they are making like, it's almost like if you were to rewrite something to make it right, but they have a warped sense of reality. They don't have a normal brain. They don't have normal like, nothing is normal about it, and absolutely nothing is normal about their fantasy life. And so they then, in turn, like you see it with killers that are constantly killing their mother over and over again, or killing their father over and over again. Look at why is his name just completely gone? Ed Kemper. I mean, he's just a prime example of, like, not high IQ, not being able to be emotionally intelligent enough to deal with it, even though it appears that he did later. I just think that he is highly narcissistic, and he wanted to be known. He wanted to be prolific. And I think that's what motivated him. I know that a lot of people differ from my line of thinking on him. But if you really watch, like, and listen to some of the audios, and how he just ate up, like, interacting, and how he would test them, and the back and forth, he loved that. He found that completely titillating. And I think that that's really why he wanted to be caught. I think he was just over it. And I think he was intellectual enough to realize, like, yeah, I'm probably doing this because I hate my mom. I mean, he screwed her. He chopped his mother's head off in the end, and had sex with her head as a final, like, coup d'etat or something just totally off. I mean, horrific. Obviously, I'm going to a like a level 12 on the scale of like the correction that they're trying to do when they murder. They're trying to correct what they view as something that has been wronged upon them, that they didn't deserve, but they don't really know how to deal with that that at all, and so some subconsciously, and it bleeds over into conscious, they start to act out these fantasies that they have been protecting themselves with. Okay, I'm going to shut up and let this article speak for itself. Thought patterns and actions. I think we read this one last time. Yeah. Serial killers, biological predispositions. This is number 4. Ordinary people often wonder about the nature of unconceivable and horrific actions that are committed by serial killers. It is important to clarify the origins of a serial killer. The interpretation of these 3-phase model, which was developed, can answer these questions. Some individuals show a biological predisposition to violence due to deficits in the brain system, which involves a low level of frustration tolerance. In this volatile brain structure, stressful events and environmental traumas are added. The pathological personality has no adaptive capacity, so the subject is not able to face up to everyday problems posed by the real world. Therefore, he prefers to retreat into a private world of fantasies which satisfy him. Consequently, the real world only remains for the serial killer's criminal activities, which he has previously fantasized about and that has led him to commit his first murder. After having committed murder, the killer is ready to start the destructive cycle and become a serial killer. Sooner or later, in fact, he feels a new impulse to kill. He chooses the victim and after the murder spends a period of relative calm in which he elaborates and relives the murder that he just committed in his fantasy until once more imagination is not enough and he will feel the need to kill again. I do want to say something about, like he chooses the victim. That can mean a lot of different things. Just because there are killers that they don't have an intended victimology. I think sometimes we get so one track brain of thinking that these, like there is this set victimology when really like that doesn't necessarily need to be the ritual inside of the fantasy. It could be all different types of ethnicities, of background, age. Oh boy. Every time. Sorry. Adobe's wanting to update. You guys see my next upcoming thumbnail or a part of it anyway. Where was I at? No. Must have gone away. Oh, here we go. I'm already on it. Sheesh. All right. Well, it cut me off, so now we can just read. After having committed murder, the killer ready to start destructive cycle. Okay. The result is the development of an individual who suffers from low self-esteem, leading to the inability to create authentic and empathetic personal relationships. Authentic and empathetic personal relationships. They're not able to do that. The central feature is poor control of impulses, which serve to stabilize the precarious sense of self through some superficial gratification. At the same time, they also develop sexual dysfunctions. So, in this one, I really think of the Dahmer types. Like they are just it's a superficial gratification. Like he targeted victims, and he was he was lonely, especially with what he did after he had killed. His fantasy was more in like, they're mine. They're not going to leave me. Superficial gratification because they're unable to create authentic and empathetic personal relationships. Number 5, sequential predatory behavior. The serial killer's behavior is usually characterized by several factors, which in combination give origin to homicidal actions, which arise cyclically in time. Sequential predatory behavior is developed through the interaction of 4 key elements. Imagination is the element which is the basis of despised sexuality and is part of a serial predator's personality. So, imagination is the element which is the basis of the despised sexuality and is part of the serial predator's personality. With a series of murders, the fantasy becomes more sexual and more aggressive, and the subject develops a form of dependency on it. Symbolism, number 2, is symbolism. The sexual perversions of serial killers have a strong symbolic value. In particular, the collection of fetish items immediately after the murder serves to remind the killer of the victim. Feed the fantasy and get emotional gratification. Serial murder is a form of communication used by the serial killer, in which the expressive function is to show sides of the killer's personality. Remember what we just read about. It's very superficial. So anything, this is talking about items, fetish type items, in which the expressive function is to show sides of the killer's personality and send a conscious message through the only language known by the subject. 3, ritualism. A peculiar element of serial murder is that of ritual. The subject is forced by his internal fantasies to follow a constant repetitive pattern over time in some or in all of its phases. For example, the choice of the same type of victim and the arrangement of the corpse always in a certain way. The subject is obliged to respect a certain ritual order which is necessary to represent his inner world in real life. Number 4, compulsion. As in any type of addiction, the need to do evil is an expression of an inner need, first psychological and then physiological. Therefore, this is a compulsive behavior fueled by impossible desires. With the passage of time and the progression of homicides, he develops a true syndrome of habituation and addiction, habituation and addiction, that lead the subject to always seek higher levels of violence. Motivational phase. Number 1, the motives represent the source of a serial killer's behavior. They are divided into A, primary motivations common to all individuals and especially related to physiological needs. B is secondary motivations, which include all those complex behaviors, sometimes socially determined and not related to physiological needs. The motivational drive concerns some psychological dynamics which affect perception on the part of the subject that the environment does not care for him, an obsessive search for attention, positive reinforcement, gratification, the desire to possess and control the environment and other general control. The transformation of the need to possess and control sexual impulses and the need to kill to affect the environment which he perceives as bad in order to counterbalance all his frustrations with one single article. I gotta get some chapstick. Hey, Pug. Hey, Otto. Hey, Lipsha. Glad you're here. Well, I guess it's a lip gloss. Oh, okay. Hey, Hoosier. Glad you're here. Oh, Grandma Sherry, thank you so much. And Professor Pug, thank you. It says, thank you, Mel, for the hours and hours you give up. You deserve these lives and research. Oh, thanks. Oh, that's okay, Big Fish. Hey, Ernie, what you doing? I'm glad you're well. I'm really glad. Thanks for stopping by. Digital, hello. Sweet Caroline, hi. Reach into my soul and pull it. It won't hurt. Wow, we got a good crowd here tonight. Thank you guys for being here. And thank you, True Crime Maria. You are too sweet. Hey, Lighting the Way and Amy. Good to see you both. Really good to see you guys. All right, I'm going to get back to my reading. Where did I leave off? See, I just done forgot. The desire to possess and control, because remember, like, this fantasy is about power and control. We read that in the introduction of this citation. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. It is an abstract. Okay, we'll call it that. I don't know. I don't know what these are called, but they are enlightening, in my opinion. The desire to possess and control the environment and other general control. The transformation of the need to possess and control sexual impulses and the need to kill to affect the environment, which he perceives as bad in order to counterbalance all his frustrations with one single action. You see that with Ed Gein. You know, he had a lot of sexual... his childhood was very over sexualized and he had a lot of sexual issues, and then he killed in a very peculiar, horrific way, and then he and then to rob graves and to build things out of human skin. It was a sexual impulse. And it was also probably fell into what we were reading earlier about, not symbolism, but what was the next one? The ritual, or symbolism too, because it's not actually like fetish items. The criminal fantasy phase. In the mind of the subject, the materialization of a fantasy occurs. In the absence of a criminal imagination, the path is blocked and the crime cannot be committed. A serial killer dreams of killing and raping and having power over people's lives, almost as if by controlling the lives of victims, he could regain control over his life. Sex and a violent, sadistic sexual fantasy play a major role because the sexual sphere is the most exciting aspect for the serial killer and the most derogatory to the victim. The most exciting to the serial killer and the most derogatory to the victim. It's important. Number 3, mental anticipation of the effects phase. A serial killer mentally anticipates the effects of his actions. The effects may have instrumental functions, murder to have control, or expressive functions, murder to strengthen self-esteem and self-efficacy. The first function acts as the second, directing it. In every crime, the weight of one or the other function may be different, but they both present. The serial killer mentally anticipates the atmosphere of aggression with the aim of reducing the sense of existential angst. Number 4, the design phase. In this phase, the subject evaluates the convenience of criminal action through a decision-making process, pro-counterbalance. Making the selection, the behavior is programmed in all its variables, and the subject decides whether, how, and when to take that action, control. During the design phase, the subject can see the difficulty of carrying out the crime and decide to stop or postpone the murderous conduct. The number 5 is the execution phase. The subject applies the strategies outlined in the planning phase when he murders. It is the I can never say this word. Culmination of excitement, the moment when he can triumph, dominate, and denigrate another human being. I'm going to read that again. It is the culmination of excitement, the moment when he can triumph, dominate, and denigrate another human being. This phase produces internal sensations to the subject, both positive and negative, which will affect the possibility of a reoccurrence of homicidal behavior. Number 6, satisfaction after killing. This is the stage in which the subject feels satisfied. Reoccurrence of violent behavior depends on the presence and degree of certain factors. Number 1, experience during the first murder and the subsequent learning mechanism stimulus response. 2, if a single murder has satisfied the sense of inadequacy and frustration, as well as the need to control. Number 3, elaboration of emotions experienced during the murder after a certain period. Number 4, stimulation coming from the amplification by the media of the killer. Number 5, further frustrating stimulation from the killer's social environment. So if you look at like different serial killers like Rader and Bundy and Kemper and just on and on down the list, Israel Keys, Samuel Little even, they all ended up with a shorter and shorter amount of time in between all of these phases towards the end of their killing. And there was an ebb and flow, and there was definitely them a phase of like where they were first starting to kill, of learning, and there were quite a lot of changes that they throughout their serial killing careers. The role of the media is very important in strengthening the homicidal fantasies. Wow. Ed Kemper. The media have the ability to make the subject feel important by increasing his elusive image. I think we can see that successfully with Kegan Kline. I think that with all the people that he has written back even and talked to on the phone, you can definitely, and how he thinks he is entitled, well, I'm going to get paid and and the sexual inappropriate things that he is messaging to people on, I believe it was Chirp. Yeah, definitely Media plays a very important role in strengthening not just homicidal fantasies, but criminal fantasies. I mean, that guy is a sexual deviant at the very least, and that is very bad. So I would not be shocked one bit if he is the sole perpetrator of any kind of homicide. The fantasy life is there. There are a lot of keys that we have read in here that do line up with the things that we know about him. And these are just outsiders looking in. So you can imagine. Number 6, the time of the murders, the execution phase. Well, how did we skip right to that? I wonder how long this is. Okay. It's not very much more left. Just 2 more. I've been on for about an hour. I think I'm going to take a quick break and go to the bathroom and just try to find my real chapstick. So I am going to play some music and a little get you in the wait, I should make sure. What do I have to play? Where did it go? Oh yeah, it is some. I was going to do for my girl Chaotic. I was going to do some Halloween, but I think that I've skipped it because now I'm on to the moon and clouds, but I'm going to find some, and it's like Beachfront. It's like stock free footage that you can just like play. So I found some really bad music. No, it's actually kind of cool. Like oh boy, too loud. We'll just do it super low. But this is about my, like it's humming. So that's about all I can do. So that's what we're going to do for our break. Is it too loud? Hey, Lynette. Thanks, bud. Hey, Chaotic. Glad you're here. What happened to the video? Oh, I got to push play. All right. I'll be right back. Isn't that so cool? Was that fun? Pretty good music. All right. Pretty good. We'll just jump right back into it. Number 6, the time of murder, the execution phase. The executive phase consists of some phases, each of which is correlated to a particular mental state. Number 1, the auroral phase, characterized by a disassociative state in which the killer has crossed the borders that separate imagination from reality. It can last days, months, or even years. The phase of repetitions and elaborations of fantasies have themes such as murder, revenge, control, mutilation, cannibalism, and possession. Nothing can stop the murder at this stage. Number 2, the phase of identifying the victim. The serial killer begins to attend places where it is more likely for him to find a victim. There is nothing random or accidental at this stage. Every serial killer has a definite list for the kind of victim he needs to satisfy his fantasies. The seduction phase. See, I don't think I necessarily agree with that, but that's fine. The seduction phase. The serial killer patiently lures, fascinates, persuades, and woos his victim into a vulnerable position so that he can implement his murder. He begins a very seemingly innocent conversation, whose real intention is to get the vital information needed to lure the victim into a trap. Individuals are charismatic, kind, charming, and well-dressed. The serial killer tries to make himself known to the victim. Look at Kegan Kline and his online activity. That is the seduction phase. Number 4, the capture phase. Usually the killer acts when the victim is alone in an isolated place. The previous phases have the task of increasing the degree of excitation of the subject. The capture causes pleasure as the murderer feels that the victim is at last in his possession and he can take all the time he wants to prepare the murderous ritual. The capture can be swift and decisive so as not to give the victim a chance, but it can also be slow and studied in order to increase the terror level of his prey. Once the killer is sure that there is no way for the victim to escape, he reveals his true intentions. Number 5, the murder phase. The killer's fantasies are enacted. It is the stage of triumph, often accompanied by an orgasmic release of tension built up in the previous steps. Each murderer has his own way of killing, and that is what gives him greater satisfaction. Number 6, the depersonalization phase. The victim's face is often covered, and the victim is thereby depersonalized. Rape or mutilation often takes place after the victim was rendered unconscious, is dying, or is already dead. Sexual acts often involve insertion of foreign objects into bodies' orifices. Insertional necrophilia. Death is caused by strangulation. Wounds form blunt or sharp weapons, and the weapon is often found at the crime scene. Interesting. Like, I think they mean that the killer finds the weapon at the crime scene, or do they mean, let me read that again. Death is caused by strangulation, wounds from blunt or sharp weapons, and the weapon is often found at the crime scene. So I guess either or. Totemic phase. It is the time following the crime when the aggressor relives the murder committed through memories and fetishes. The experience was so rewarding that the killer feels drained of all energy. To prolong the feeling of power and triumph, the murderer takes souvenirs or crime trophies, body parts, clothing. We did read about some of that in the Ron Logan affidavit. About items that were taken. These trophies are essential in order to create and maintain in some way a bridge between his fantasy and the crimes committed. The murderer can pose the corpse. This phase also practices various perversions. So posing, that is something that is applicable, such as cannibalism, necrophilia, and masturbation in front of the body or parts of the body. An organized killer is more inclined to take photographs or video the victim. Interesting. Both before and after the murder. Wow, didn't realize that one. Number 8, depressive phase. After the murder, the serial killer suffers great emotional disappointment and he gets depressed. I wonder if, because this abstract of a paper is about serial murder. I wonder if we found one that involved sexual exploitation and, serial exploitation of a child, pornography, because all of those are sometimes like preemptive things that lead into the fantasy of murder. But they also fit into these phases. If you really think about the all that we just read, it does apply to Kegan Kline, as far as not just like if he were to be a murderer, but as is what he is, what we know he is right now. However, since the victims are seen as objects, the memory of the murders may fade over time and shift the killers in their fantasies, make them move towards a new murder, and restart the homicidal cycle. 7, serial killers and socio-environmental factors. Serial killers' behavior is the product of the circular combination of 3 factors, F, which are interwoven with each other, with variable importance from individual to individual and of different intensities of the respective sub-factors, SF. The initials of the 3 factors, social and environmental, is S, individual, I, and relational, R, identify the SIR model, which constitutes the starting point for creating a new taxonomy of serial murder that takes into account the real complexity of the phenomenon, and that can explain why a person becomes serial killer. The F factor Factor S includes also all social and environmental components that can affect the behavior of a serial murderer. Number 1, SF1. So that would be the social and environmental individual or factors for And this is number one. Origin. Original family environment. In most cases, the family in which a serial killer grows up does not allow a healthy development of empathy and consequently the formation of a balanced personality. Physical, sexual, and psychological abuse and emotional deprivation are some of the many traumas which the subject undergoes during childhood that establish the foundations for future criminal behavior. Okay, let's think about what we did read in the interview about the little story that was actually true, where his father, Kegan Klein's father, stuck his stepson's head into a toilet and beat him up. And the little boy took off running. And we heard about that on the Murder Sheet podcast. And we heard from his stepsister and the abuse and the sadistic psychological warfare that Kegan's father played out on those kids is absolutely horrific. Like, really think about it like this. My dad is wonderful, so I can put there is not a memory that I have where my dad put my head in a toilet bowl, who would force me to rub his back. Even that is like absolutely not normal. What were some of the other ones? I mean, just absolute depravity. And as you listen to the step siblings speaking about the family dynamic, obviously it is a toxic family dynamic. The mother is abused. She is severely psychologically, mentally, and she's controlled. I mean, just and the control in the sadistic way, like I can't help but think of like, well, you know who I'm thinking about, freaking Greeno, or Raider did. I don't know about his family. I think he did do some sadistic things with his daughter, sitting her down and then they watched true crime together. These are the things, like, so when I think about my father and I try to imagine a world where he would have done that to me or my siblings, or pitted us against each other, or treated one of my siblings that could do no wrong and on a pedestal, but also in a super unhealthy way, like Kegan was treated. No excuse for their future. And this is not meant to be, what I'm reading now is not meant to be excuse. It's meant to be an explanation. Okay. Big difference between those two words. A huge difference between explanation and I forget the other word. It's excuse. It is not excusing their behavior. It is explaining it, or trying to. Insertion into society. During adolescence and later as an adult, a serial murder has, in principle, a low level of inclusion in society. Look at Kegan Kline. He was so driven into exclusion that because he didn't fit. If you listen to the Murder Sheet podcast and you listen to what friends and people that claim to have known him have to say, just like that, like always on the very edge of everything. Like, I don't know, that's the vibe I got. Just like kind of like, that like, guess we have to put up with him, I guess, and impulse control was very low for him. Where did I In fact, very often he does not have a rewarding job and has few friends, and is a person with few cultural interests, even in those cases where apparently the subject shows a facade of normality. For example, is married, has children, and a stable job, and is considered positively by the community in which he lives. Dennis Rader. In reality, it is an inclusion which stops at a superficial level. Remember about what we read earlier about that superficial, well, I can't remember the word, superficial existence. They just like, they don't have that deep empathetic connection, that unique relationship building ability. Superficial level and does not involve the core of the personality, haunted by deep inner anxieties. That's something that he brought up about himself in his his interrogations. Predisposing, facilitating, and triggering events. In every life story of a serial killer, you can find predisposing, facilitating, and triggering events that may occur at any time, triggering the homicidal chain reaction. These events, which for another person may seem completely harmless, instead, for a serial murderer, have a disruptive emotional energy which is able to shatter a fragile identity. The list of these events is not the same for everyone, but among the most common, there are sudden deaths, which upset the precarious internal balance of the subject, sudden abandonment by a person, easy access to a weapon, and the presence of certain type of easily approachable victim. Subcultural influences. This factor assumes considerable importance in those cases in which the serial killer grows up in a criminal environment. Check. Where, for example, the parents exhibit criminal behavior. Check. Or the subject is inserted, especially during adolescence, in a group of criminal peers who exercise a significant influence over him. Several serial killers start a criminal career early because they are included in a context that facilitates and supports the shift to an aggressive action. Rewards and punishments by the environment. The way society reacts to first deviant and criminal acts by a potential serial killer plays an important role in guiding the future behavior of the subject. The criminal path of an individual does not begin with a serial murder. That's a lot of the reason right there is why I wanted to read this in lieu of talking about Kegan Kline, with a serial murderer, but with less serious incidents. That's important right there. But with less serious incidents, like it takes a lot. The subject may receive rewards or punishments for their actions, or a punishment with the educational function, which can serve to slow or block the evolution of serial homicide behavior. The individual factor, psychological and psychopathological traits. A serial killer has peculiar psychological characteristics that in many cases are related to psychopathological traits and can take different forms: mental illness, neurological deficits, and orientate his behavior. In some subjects, a predisposition to evil seems to exist with very early criminal behavior, even in families where there's no presence of trauma. Yeah, I'm not buying that. Yeah, that's the part where I start to like not agree, because what is viewed as trauma to Jeffrey Dahmer, or like Israel Keys, compared to Ed Gein, just putting those next to each other examples, like, well, it's like, you didn't have that bad. You really got to go into that emotional IQ, in my opinion. Imaginative life. A common feature of a serial killer is to have a very rich and varied imaginative life. Look at Kegan Kline and Ferrari and the this and the that and the bling and the all the jobs and the extravagance of his fantasy of what he wishes he was. Very evident there. Compared to the fantasies of normal individuals, those of potential serial killers are oriented early on the domain, control, and destruction of other people, who are imagined as objects at disposal for personal gratification. Look at the child pornography. The Kegan Kline, he didn't even see that there were other girls on the other end of these conversations that he was having. He's very disassociated from the empathetic part that makes us human. That is very clear throughout that entire interrogation. Subjective needs, motivations. Throughout life, everyone has aspirations and motivations that lead them to exhibit certain behaviors. In serial killers, murder is always linked to purely personal psychological motivations. In fact, when they are captured, interrogated about what prompted them to kill, it is very difficult to understand their justification. I was just listening to the Murder Sheet podcast earlier, and they have moved on to other double homicides, and they were going over some of the justifications in those other cases. I suggest you check that out. I found it, very telling of just like, well, like they didn't want to share their fishing pole. Like these two little boys are out fishing, and this murderer comes up, and he's like, oh, wow, I really like that fishing pole. And like, I'd like to buy that off of you. And the little boys were not interested. And that was his motivation for murder. It's like, not what? But it's really just a justification. Processing capacity of trauma. The individual factor is very important to understand why some people become serial killers and others do not. Even though there are similar life experiences in their personal history, a traumatic event, for example, the mounting of a loved one, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, the mourning of a loved one, humiliation caused by schoolmates, rejection by a sexual partner can be handled in different ways by different people. Number 3, the relational factor. Communication with himself. Serial murderers have difficulty establishing and maintaining genuinely empathetic relationship with others and prefer to live in a dimension of loneliness accompanied only by their imaginations. The quality of these fantasies and the internal dialogue that every serial killer has with himself are of fundamental importance and influence his future action. Communication of the individual family of origin. The devaluing attitude of a father, check, or a mother could irreversibly compromise the development of a child's personality. Indeed, tensions with parents can determine future adult behavior, which can also lead them to kill. Women that remind them of their mother, because despite not having the courage to murder their own mother, they murder her symbolically by using other victims. Communication of the individual sexual partners. Sex is one of the fundamental aspects of human life, and the type of interaction created by individual with sexual partners has a definite influence on his personality. Many of the serial killers analyzed have developed an inadequate path composed of refusal, abandonment, and humiliation of every kind. Therefore, they come to hate a certain category of people, in most cases women, against whom they wish to take revenge by killing them. Communication of the individual society. Some serial killers manage to camouflage themselves behind a mask of normality by opening very superficial relationships with other social subjects, but in fact continue to treat people as mere objects and do not believe that it is possible to establish a positive relationship. In the event that serial murderers have their own family, may be married with children, the relationship with the family has the same trend as the external ones, a facade of normality, while in reality, domestic life is marked by daily underlying tension. Look at Ted Bundy, Dennis Rader. Those are, I'm trying to stick with like serial killers that like everybody knows, like they're ways of learning violence. From what we can deduce, a human being is not born a serial killer, but over the years learns the use of violence to satisfy his needs, identity, sexual, personal gratification, omnipotence. And ways of learning are always a question of interactions with one or more negative patterns taken as reference points. I forgot to get my real chapstick. It's like one of my 2 things I was set out to do. Oh. Drop that. All right. Now we're in the conclusion. Analyzing the phenomenon of serial killers, elements emerge which can determine serial homicide behavior. The instinct of repulsion of death, which is present in all human beings, is weakened or absent in serial killers. They feel attracted to death. Sandy Hook. Looking that up. And all that concerns death. Fantasy has a fundamental role and pushes the serial killer into an imaginary world where he finds more satisfaction than in the real world. Before killing, he will experiment with murder in his imagination. If he is satisfied by the first fantasy, he will create other fantasies until, at a certain point, dissatisfaction will lead him to re-enter the real world to apply 3 essential elements: power, control, and domain. On termination of this phase, he will fantasize about a new victim to sacrifice. This research cannot provide definitive answers to the problem about serial murderer. However, it can be useful for further research in the fields of serial killers. So, and then we have all the different references. We're done reading. We did it. We finished. All right, let's head over to chat for a few. And then I'm probably going to take another little break, go say hi to my daughter who just got home from work. And then if you guys want, we'll take another about 45 minutes to start to go over the interview. Yeah. Hey, Justice Served Daily, how are you? Charismatically clever, glad you're here. Why? Bet KK was bullied in school. Yeah, I bet too. Hey, Crime Geek, glad you're here. She's got such a good attitude. Hello, Cindy. How are you? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. a distinct pattern for sure. Hindsight is 2020 and shocking how much it adds up. Why? Anyone remember Richard Iceman? Yep. 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 Hey, Just Mike. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I follow what you were asking. Yeah, I think it was her. I can't remember. It was arm or leg. I feel like either one. So, I'm sure someone in the chat knows. Yeah. Isn't it? I mean, it's mind-boggling, and it's like that's not like the first. I mean, he's got it's not too deep, but you see that a lot, especially in states that don't have stalking and coercive control laws in place, which we are going to do. I do have a live planned for maybe just, I don't know. We'll see. It's about coercive control and Anthony Greeno and how he uses that on women and you and me and YouTube and Facebook and wherever the hell you're watching from, how he uses coercive control to get away, and that's what they do is they like my friend Angie, he physically abused her. He physically violated her in other ways, but he physically abused her with like a punch, which is something that is can be seen, and it is something that there is a criminal offense that goes along with it. A handful of times. But I'll tell you what, he controlled her everything, and he used coercion. And that is manipulation. That is and then in society, they get away with it because of victim blaming and judging. And I'm going to leave all of that to that episode and not get sidetracked. Right. Yeah. New level to judge stats. Yeah, no. Like it is, and it's just nuts, isn't it? Yeah, I totally agree. Oh. I'll have to go check that out. Otto Man. No problem, Crime Geek. I'm not seeing it, Otto Man. Oh, here we go. I just found out that Kegan's first girlfriend's 5th, 6th, 7th grade was a girl named Emily. Ah, interesting. Fits into that social, outside. So you got family phase and then the like, I don't remember what that phase was called, but I think you guys follow my drift, and how that part of life can like affect the inclination to become a serial murderer. Interesting. Arkansas. Hi. Oh, and thanks, Grizz. Yeah, I guess I kind of am. I mean, I started at 6:40. I'm 8:40. We'll probably do, I don't know, maybe another half an hour. I haven't been on in a while, so I guess I do kind of tend to be either all or nothing. I'm like super long, when I should just probably divide them up and then be on more often. What do you guys think? I think I know what you think. Shorter, more often, and consistently. Who knows though? Like, I sometimes I get overwhelmed by channels that are uploading or going live 3 times a day, or even sometimes once. It's just like, wow, that's like way too much. I don't know. But then again, when you add in, you are subscribed to 100 channels, and if they all go live every single day, like, it's a lot. That could get very overwhelming. Oh, okay. Justice served daily. I checked into Klein history. It really explains why Tony was given a pass. Huh. Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad that helped. I got a lot of positive people reaching out to me, and because I mentioned Laura Richards, and she is up there with for me personally, with like Dr. Colleen Fitzpatrick in my awe of. So yeah, no, it totally is rough. And I would like to say that I would like Roz to leave my friend alone. Like, I don't care what you do to me, but like, leave chaotic out of it. I think you've done enough harm with the rude and awful things that you said about her, that were very, very low blows. So I think you need to just leave her, and you need to leave True Crime Maria alone. I know you've probably deleted my comment, but I did say that I don't see her making incessant videos about you, and to bring up women's or men's mental health as your ploy to be dramatic and get subscribers, because I really think that's what it is. And because like, you're doing the stalking as far as like how it appears online, like, it's getting confusing. But yeah, like, I think you need to just maybe back off of the two of them for sure. And she should probably do a video about you. But I think it shows how much you mean to her that she hasn't. So maybe just stop, because it's getting embarrassing for you. Just saying. Hi, Susan. Thanks, ladies. Sometimes just like in this world, there's just sometimes that you have to just You have to just really support other women in true crime, because there is this, maybe it's unconscious. Sometimes I don't think it's unconscious at all, bias, and these things that come into play here in this, especially in this like true crime community of YouTube, that these men just think that like women fit into these roles, and they have free reign to say and do whatever the fork they want. And Graz has been doing that, systematically doing that. And I'm getting really fed up with it. I'm just being real cold truth. Like, I'm getting really fed up with it. It is offensive. It is offensive to my sensibilities. It is offensive to women. It is misogynistic and degrading. And I don't care what is done to you, that you have perceived is done to you. Attacking someone's mental health is unacceptable behavior. It should be a no-brainer. And on that note, I'm going to take a little break because I'm getting a little bit heated. But it is just something that we need to be reminded of. Sadly. Yeah. Okay. We're going to go back to some beachfront views here. Oh, I got to do this the other way. Did you at least hear the music? You couldn't see the screen, which it wasn't anything that cool this time. Okay, well, I can hear it. Sorry about that. I'm sorry that I left the comment up there too. Yeah, I saw that. You too, Crime Geek, and yes, like, definitely. I had screen recorded the live that Crime Geek had Anthony Renee on, and just the way that he treated her in the course of control, really. The she was talking, and she was actually doing a way better job than him, and it was interesting. And then the jailhouse call ending is coming on, and she was like, oh, I knew that was going to happen. And he was like, yeah, you talk too much. And then she's like, well, can you call right back? And he's like, no, like a punishment to her. Trying to embarrass her is what I would surmise. But she just picked right back up and finished her thought, which I thought was awesome. Loved that part. And then he called right back, like the asshole that he is. And because I got off on that little tangent, I felt like it needed to be said about Graz. And yeah, so I've decided that we're going to leave off here because it is almost, well, it's 8:30. We can hang out for a few minutes, but we're just going to kind of have a few minutes just to kind of hang out. And I will do another live with the things that I found significant about the Kegan Kline interview. And yes, I know I'm late to the party. And if you don't like it, just don't watch, Oh, that's totally fine. Yeah, Deb. Totally. Yeah. I'll send it to you. I think you'll be able to see those things in retrospect, which unfortunately, as a society, as humans, it's a lot of times we have to learn things in retrospect, but there's such healing in looking back reflectively, and they really do kind of help us to become stronger, better humans and women. And I think that when you have someone being completely offensive, such as Graz right now, and the way that he is just incessantly attacking and calling these women out for mental illness, while I do not particularly get along with one of the women, there's just some things there. By no means does that mean that you And I'm not talking about True Crime Maria or Crime Geek or, I think we all know who I'm talking about. But there are just some things that you just don't do. And he finds his justification for it in this stalking and, just all this stuff that really doesn't have a real, it seems very flimsy and baseless, in my opinion. And I'm just getting really tired of him consistently just, and then, using a chaotic in myself's live, and then always putting in that little jab to Jimbo like he was so cool. Like, come on. You're nothing but just like gum on Jimbo's shoes, dude. Just But he keeps adding that to his videos, which apparently did get taken down. So that's good, because he has like a throwaway channel. I think it just like go away. He just seems to be unraveling, and just in a very narcissistic, self-absorbed fashion. And in my opinion, and I'm just getting really tired of him dragging my friends into his drama. And I think that he's done enough damage, and it's just time to stop. And if you don't like that, that's your problem. Oh, wow. That's crazy, Crime Geek. I'm not surprised. Yeah. That's very nice of you, charismatically clever. I bet we need that. I think I have it on his computer somewhere. Yeah, like I have a lot of screen recordings. I totally, but like, send you your way. And are you still working on what we talked about, Crime Geek? Oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me. Let me guess. Was her name Pam? Shame on me for getting him possibly life in prison. He did it to himself. Yeah, he totally did it to himself. And we all would feel safer with him in there. Yes. Yeah, sure would. Yeah. Oh, Crime. Glad you're back. Yeah, I knew it was her. Like, she's left comments on I think it was Burn After Reading. Really cool guy. Like, I like him a lot. And he definitely, like, I appreciate him, doing his video, and then, like, sending people my way. I think that was very nice of him. And I respected that he took the time to call Greeno out. And I'm glad to see more channels doing that, because then, that was just like, he doesn't deserve to be a part of this community whatsoever. And it would be great if there was not a place for him to come back to, because he will move on if there isn't a source of his narcissistic need being fulfilled and his pockets being lined. He will find something else. He moved on from the reality bounty hunting / true bounty hunting fiasco that he never was. Never really had any of that. It was all a facade. But he, he had that grift going before he perpetrated and perpetuated himself onto the Delphi double homicide of Abigail Williams and Liberty German, like place in YouTube. And he has been doing that for way too long. And yeah, so yeah, Pam left some comments for me on Burn After Readings. You know, just the same old lame thing of like, I mean, just and that's the misogyny that I see of just like women even viewing other women of like, oh, and how he labeled me as an ex-girlfriend just because I'm or a potential, you know, like people don't seem to think that I could want to do this of my own volition because he pissed me off. Like that's not a reason enough. So therefore I must be scorned, or he didn't want me, or I'm an ex-girlfriend because I systematically revealed the truth about him. It's not adequate that my reason would be I told him I would go level 12 psycho on him. And I'm quoting, if you wrong Ray Hainish and Nicole Bowen's family, I will go level 12 psycho on you if you do that. Anyone that does that, including you, is actually what I said. And that's exactly what I've done. You know, I kept my word and I did do that. And that is my reason. Of course, there's other reasons because I do care about victims' families, and I cannot stand to see any of them being re-victimized by some punk, grifting piece of crap like him. You know, it's disgusting. But that is really yeah, see, there is a Pam on Facebook as well. Like you can go to my Facebook profile and find old Pam and Arthur. Just like a lot of oof. Yeah, but Pam, she's like, I don't know. She went ham on my Facebook profile and saying all, I mean, she tends to do the same thing of like smelly melly. I don't even know what the hell that is. And you know, that he rejected me at a lunch. I don't know, but that just absolutely never happened. There was no rejection. He was creepy at the one lunch that we were at the same time with a bunch of other people, including my friend Cher and many others that were there and with me the entire time. And he just the only thing that he kept doing was like, do I look like what you thought I would? And I just was like, he'd asked me at the court and I was just like, I just kind of did not answer and just kind of like changed the subject. But it was just like the way he was looking at me was super creepy. And I just didn't like when he asked it, it's just like, ugh. Like in real life, like, am I like what you thought I would be in real life? And just like, do I look like? And I'm just like, he'd asked me like 3 different times. I think it was 3. And like, I knew what he was wanting. Like, he wanted me to be like, yes, of course. I'm like, no, you're better. Ugh. Well, that wasn't the case. He looked like he was kind of unkempt and like shorter than me and just kind of like he just rolled out of bed and came to court, which was like embarrassing for like that you would do that at a court hearing, you know, come and like, I don't know. It's just a weird, you know how you just meet someone and it's just like instantly, like you're like, ooh, that energy. Like for me with him, it was just like, oof, all those things that I had heard about him and I was ignoring were come crashing to the surface of my conscious. And I just was like, oh, no, Like, I mean, and I tolerated him for a little bit after that, and then he, like, stole that money from them. So, yeah, no. But he's doing undercover work. No. No. Are you kidding? Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh, that will probably be his grift. And that's the thing is, like, if you notice, what he does with the Flora fire, he thinks that he is, like, uncovered some corruption and, no, he just, exploited it for his own gain. He is not that is has nothing to do with the fact of why he keeps getting locked up. And, like, he tried to get other people to, like, to send this out for him. Like, it's ridiculous the things that he has done and that people have told me of, like, oh yeah, he asked me to send this out, and, like, it's embarrassing, and, like that would be even a thought of, like, okay, no, well, you keep being a criminal, you keep being a career criminal, and you keep being an abusive, um you keep violating your probation. You pled guilty, you didn't get screwed over in Martinsville or any other kind of bill. It's like, you did that to yourself, you pled guilty and you served your time and then you got out. There was no, like, corruption there. There's no like, there, it's just so ridiculous. So what you would have to believe then is that since 2005, since that's about when he turned 18, in 2005, there has just been corrupt law enforcement agencies following him around, waiting to take him in because he's so important. That's what you would have to believe. If you want to believe that, then that's what you're choosing to believe. And that's ridiculous. That's absolutely laughable. Hey, Justice Angel. Hey, Christopher. Oh, well, guys, hopefully I'll see you. I think Gray Hughes Investigates goes live at about 9. If he's running on time, I'll probably see you guys over there. But for tonight, I am going to sign off and I will be live soon. We've got a couple, probably a couple more episodes of this Kegan Kline interview, of just kind of in light of what we've learned with reading this abstract of the scientific research paper. I think that it is applicable. I think that it applies to some things and just some, like, different techniques that the investigators used. I've highlighted and then I just got overwhelmed by it and just started, like, underlining different things, and I can show it on screen, I think. And I may choose not to. It's a 194-page document and I have redacted it myself, but there's always that fear that you're going to miss something, and that would be awful. I would not want that. So we'll see, but I can at least read it. Yeah, like, is that not something? Something to believe that he would try to convince people of, that is completely unbelievable, but because they want to believe in him so bad, they'll believe it, like, that's where we keep running into walls with him. And like, people like Pam, like, poor Pam. One day, maybe. All right. Off to poker. I'm off to watch Gray. And I hope you guys all have a great night. Hey, JT. If I didn't see you, glad you were here. And yeah, have a good one. Talk to you later.